Welcome to Catalyze, the Connected Leaders Academy virtual conference designed to reshape your vision of transformation. As we navigate the evolving business landscape, our speakers will unveil innovative strategies to manage and initiate change. Prepare to adapt, innovate, and lead, ensuring your role as a catalyst in this transformative era.
Hello, everyone. I'm honored to be here today to talk about a crucial aspect of our business and community landscape, inclusion, with a specific focus on people with disabilities. According to the Centers for Disease Control website, up to 27% of adults in the United States have some sort of disability. According to a study published in 2013, if you live to be 76 years old, which is the average lifespan, there is a 46% chance that you will have a disability where you will require assistance with activities of daily living, such as feeding yourself and getting dressed before you die. Now, if you live to 90 years old, and if you're that fortunate, that percentage jumps up to 77% of us that reach age 90 will need help doing tasks every day. I'd like to start by asking you to think about a time when you felt truly included. A time when you felt like you belonged. Maybe it was a team at work that valued your input, a community group where you felt welcomed, or a social event where you were appreciated just for who you are. Close your eyes for a moment and let that memory come to mind. Think about how it felt to be included and valued. Reflect on a time when someone went out of their way to support you or encourage you. How did their actions make you feel valued and included? Now remember an instance when you were actively involved in the decision-making process or a group activity. How did participating in this way make you feel like you belonged? Think about a moment when your contributions were recognized and appreciated. How did this recognition impact your sense of belonging? Recall a time when you were part of a group that shared your interests or goals. How did these shared interests contribute to your feeling of inclusion? Now consider an occasion when you felt respected and understood, where your opinions and feelings were genuinely considered. How did this respect make you feel more connected and included? Now, let's shift our focus. Think about a time when you felt excluded, a time when you felt like you didn't belong. Perhaps it was a meeting where your ideas were dismissed, a social gathering where you felt out of place, or a situation where you were not given the same opportunities as others. Close your eyes again and recall that memory. Think about how it felt to be left out and undervalued. Remember a time when your opinions or ideas were dismissed or ignored. How did this experience make you feel excluded and undervalued? Think about an instance where you didn't have access to the same opportunities or resources as others. How did this lack of access impact your sense of belonging? Now reflect on a moment when you felt socially isolated or left out of a group. How did this social isolation affect your self-esteem and sense of inclusion? Recall a time when you faced discrimination or prejudice just because of who you are. How did these negative attitudes and behaviors make you feel excluded? Finally, consider an occasion when your needs were not met or considered. How did this oversight affect your ability to participate fully and feel included? These contrasting experiences of inclusion and exclusion can deeply impact our well-being and sense of belonging. Inclusion isn't just a buzzword, it's a powerful force that can transform the way we operate our businesses and interact with our communities. Today, we're going to explore how your business can be a catalyst for a more inclusive world, particularly for those people with disabilities. We will look at real-world examples, actionable strategies to create environments where everyone feels valued and included. By embracing empathy and personal responsibility, we can drive positive change, enhancing customer satisfaction, fostering community engagement, and creating lasting social impact. Let's dive right into the importance of inclusion and how we can all play a role in making our businesses and communities more inclusive for everyone. To begin, let's define what we mean by inclusion, especially in the context of people with disabilities. Inclusion means creating environments where everyone, regardless of their physical or cognitive abilities, feels valued, respected, and able to contribute meaningfully. It's about more than just accessibility. It's about ensuring that people with disabilities are fully integrated and included in all aspects of business and community life. Empathy plays a vital role here. Empathy means putting ourselves into the shoes of others, understanding their experiences and challenges, and responding with compassion. When we approach inclusion with empathy, we can better understand the needs and perspectives of people with disabilities. Empathy begins with active listening. When a colleague with a disability shares their experiences or challenges, give them your full attention. Put down your phone. I know sometimes I'm guilty of this. I'm on my phone. Somebody asks me a question. I don't look up and I just answer them without even looking up. Don't do that. I'm trying to get better at myself. Listen without interrupting and acknowledge their feelings and perspectives. For example, if an employee with a mobility impairment explains difficulties in navigating the office space, listen and ask follow-up questions to understand their specific challenges. Have them show you specifically where they're having trouble getting around. Have them take you to where it is. If it's by the copy machine, go over by the copy machine and have them show you. Regularly seek feedback from people with disabilities about their experiences in your workplace or with your services. This shows that you value their input and are committed to making improvements. Conduct anonymous surveys or hold focus groups to gather honest feedback. Ask questions like, what can we do to make our workplace more accessible and inclusive for you? Recently, I attended a listening session like this for a local arts organization. Community members such as myself were invited to attend and share their experiences relating to accessibility of the events that they had been to. I was there because 10 years ago, I had experience with the historic theater that they run in town, and I wanted to share that experience with them. At the beginning of the meeting, like most meetings, you go around and introduce yourselves. I was on the far end of the table, so by the time it got to me, I introduced myself. I said, I'm Aaron DeVries. I have a daughter who uses a wheelchair, and I'm just here to share some experiences that I've had with you. After I was done giving my little introduction, a gentleman across the table said to the entire room, I remember you. You're the dad that carried his daughter up onto the stage at the Paramount Theater for her choir concert. It took me by surprise because I hadn't even shared that experience in the meeting yet. However, it is a true event. 10 years ago, my daughter was in a choir concert that took place in this theater. I had to carry her up on the stage because the stage was not accessible for her wheelchair to get up there. I had given my first TEDx talk 10 years ago, sharing the story. He was in the audience and remembered that from 10 years ago. The good news is, as part of what the meeting was about, is they are going to remodel that theater, and part of that remodel will be making it accessible for people in wheelchairs or other mobility issues to get up on the stage. And some other stuff. So that was an example of attending a listening session, being able to share my experiences as a dad with a daughter who uses a wheelchair, and helping them understand it. Make an effort to understand the daily challenges faced by people with disabilities. This might involve educating yourself about different disabilities and how they can affect various aspects of life and work. For instance, try navigating your workplace in a wheelchair or using a screen reader to understand the accessibility of your digital content. This firsthand experience can provide valuable insights into the changes needed. Have lunch and learns where you can have a person with a disability share about themselves and how you can support them and others. Please remember that if they, for example, have been diagnosed with autism or Down syndrome or whatever it may be, that not everyone with that diagnosis will have the same needs or wants. You still need to take that time. You still need to sit down with them and get to know them. When offering help to someone with a disability, do so thoughtfully and respectfully. Ask if they need assistance rather than assuming that what they might need. For example, if you see a customer with a visual impairment struggling to find an item in your store, politely ask, is there anything I can do to help you anything I can help you find today? Better yet, just ask anybody you see in your store that's struggling to find something. Just help everyone. Develop and implement policies that promote inclusion and accommodate the diverse needs of people with disabilities. Ensure these policies are communicated clearly and consistently. For instance, establish a flexible work policy that allows employees to work from home or adjust hours as needed. Make sure all employees are aware of these options and know how to request accommodations. Encourage a workplace culture where empathy and inclusion are valued and practiced by everyone. This involves training employees on diversity and inclusion and recognizing and rewarding inclusive behavior. Host workshops and training sessions on disability awareness and etiquette. Helping employees understand how to interact respectfully and effectively with colleagues and customers with disabilities. A phrase that the disability community some in the disability community uses is presuming competence. Presume that somebody is able to do something. Don't presume that they're not able to do it. I have a couple examples for this. I have a good friend of mine that lives in the same town that I do. When I was giving my most recent TEDx talk, I asked him for some examples of how he's been treated in the community. One example he gave to me is when he goes to a restaurant. Let's say him and I went to a restaurant. There's been many times he said that if he's at a restaurant with somebody, they'll take the other person's order, and then when it's time to give his order, they will look to the other person, so it would be me in this example, and ask what he wants to eat instead of asking him directly, and he is able to communicate that. So that's an example of where you should look at the person with a disability or look at everybody and ask them first. And then if they are unable to communicate that with you, more than likely the person that's with them would be able to communicate it. Another example I have is my daughter sometimes goes to doctor appointments like we all do. There's been many times where we've gotten up to the desk where they ask for your name and birthday and they look to me to give that answer. I redirect them to her and ask for her to give them her name and birthday as she's able to do that. The last time I went to the doctor with her though, we went to the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, and the gentleman checking us in looked at her and asked those questions. So there are times when it does happen, and that's a much better experience for her and us as well. Ensure that your physical spaces are accessible to everyone. This might involve installing ramps, widening doorways, or providing accessible restrooms. Consider the layout of your office or store from the perspective of someone with a disability. Are there obstacles that might make navigation difficult? Make necessary adjustments to create a welcoming environment for all. Use various communication methods to ensure that everyone can access information. This might include providing written materials in Braille or large print, offering sign language interpretation, or using assistive listening devices. For example, during meetings, provide captions for videos and ensure that all spoken content is also available in written form for those who might have hearing impairments. I was recently at a conference and I was sitting there, and the lady presenting had a PowerPoint presentation, and on the bottom of it, there was some real-time captions. So somebody asked her how she did that. I didn't know this, but apparently in PowerPoint, they're under the accessibility settings, you can somehow set it up so there's like live captioning. So whatever she was saying to us when she was presenting was coming across the bottom of the screen. So just a handy thing I just recently found out about to make it more accessible for everybody. Take the time to build personal connections with people with disabilities. This can help you understand their individual needs and preferences better. Engage in conversations, ask about their interests, and show genuine interest in their well-being. Building these connections can foster a sense of belonging and trust. As a leader, demonstrate empathy and inclusion in your daily actions. Your behavior sets the tone for the rest of the organization. Show empathy by being approachable and open to discussions about inclusion. Lead by example in making accommodations and showing respect to all employees and customers. Empathy is not just about feeling compassion. It's about taking action based on that compassion. By incorporating empathy into your daily interactions and business practices, you can create an inclusive environment where people with disabilities feel valued, respected, and able to contribute meaningfully. So you might be asking, why should businesses prioritize inclusion for people with disabilities? The answer is multifaceted, encompassing moral, social, and economic reasons. Here are a few points to consider. By making your business accessible to people with disabilities, you open up your services to a larger customer base. This can lead to higher customer satisfaction as all customers feel valued and accommodated. As you recall, when I started this talk, I talked about the number of people in the United States with a disability, and also the numbers of the people in the U.S. who will have a disability before they die. So it's a big number of people. For instance, if a restaurant has accessible entrances and menus in Braille, it ensures that customers with mobility challenges and visual impairments can enjoy the same dining experience as everyone else. Imagine being in the position of a customer with a disability who finds it difficult to access basic services. How would that make you feel? Using this perspective, you can make necessary adjustments to ensure that your services are welcoming to all. I'm sure you've heard of the Law Americans with Disability Act. That's the minimum required for businesses. You can do more. Sometimes, the space they give you for a door or a spot inside to turn a wheelchair around, that's the minimum. Maybe if you're able to make it a couple more inches wider, that just makes it easier for the person. There's been many examples in my daughter's life where we've come across where stuff isn't accessible, or if somebody would have gone above and beyond, it would have made it easier. One of those was an example. We went to a choir concert, and if you have children, at least when I've gone to my kids' concerts, there's way more people there and vehicles than there's parking spaces for. So the parking lot of this particular school my daughter attended had, I think, 2 parking spots in it, which first of all wasn't the actual number needed. They should have had more under the law. But of course, for the concert, it was super busy. I ended up trying to park on a wide sidewalk leading to the building. Was sitting there waiting for the concert to start, was asked by the principal to come outside to move my van. So I had to move it off that sidewalk into the fire lane. But subsequently had discussions with the school trying to get them to add some more parking spaces, or at a minimum, maybe pull some out, have some extra ones, for concerts like that. They did not. They added another space. So it was a little better after that. So there are examples where going above and beyond would have made it easier for me and others as well. Inclusive workplaces are happier and more productive. Employees who feel valued and included are more engaged, which translates to higher productivity and loyalty. Providing accommodations such as a flexible work schedule, assistive technology, and accessible workspaces can help employees with disabilities perform to their fullest potential, benefiting the entire organization. As business leaders and managers, it's our duty to create an environment where every employee, regardless of their abilities, can thrive. This means taking proactive steps to understand their needs and provide the necessary support. Businesses that prioritize inclusion often see increased community support and engagement. Reflecting the diversity of community in your practices can build stronger, more meaningful connections with local stakeholders. Participating in or sponsoring local events that promote disability awareness and inclusion can enhance your business's reputation and foster goodwill. Think about the impact on your community when your business becomes a beacon of inclusion. Inclusive practices contribute to the broader goal of social equity. By promoting inclusion, businesses can help create a fair and more just society. Businesses have the power to influence societal norms and perceptions. By championing inclusion, you set a positive example for other businesses and the community at large. Now let's discuss how you can make your business more inclusive for people with disabilities. Here are some practical strategies. First, you can conduct an audit of your current practices to identify areas where you can improve inclusion. This includes reviewing your physical space, digital presence, and customer service practices. For example, ensure that your website is accessible to people with visual impairments by following the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. With all of these, though, you need to make sure that people with disabilities are part of the process. We don't need committees or groups of people trying to make stuff more inclusive without and not having people with disabilities included in that process. There's also a phrase that I've heard with some in the disability community where it's nothing about us without us. So if we're talking about improving inclusion, we should have people with disabilities in there having that conversation with us. Create an environment where all employees feel valued and included. This can be achieved through diversity training, employee resource groups, and inclusive policies that support accessibility and accommodations. Provide training on disability awareness and etiquette to help employees understand how to interact respectfully and effectively with colleagues and customers with disabilities. If you have an employee, for instance, that uses a wheelchair, make sure that their desk is with everyone and not over in the corner. This happened with my daughter in school several times where the desks in the room were not accessible for her to pull her wheelchair up underneath. So we'd have to have a table or a desk brought in, but often that desk was just sitting over in the corner, so she wasn't included in that setting. Make sure in your workplace that if you have an accessible desk for somebody with a wheelchair, that they are with everybody else. Ensure your marketing materials and communications reflect the diversity of your customer base. Use inclusive language, diverse images, and consider the accessibility of your digital content. Use subtitles and sign language interpretation in your videos and provide alternative text for images on your website and social media platforms. Once again, like I said before, ask your employees with disabilities or others to review the materials and the communications to make sure maybe there isn't something that you missed. Partner with local organizations that promote inclusion and support people with disabilities. Sponsor events, support community initiatives, and collaborate with diverse suppliers to show your commitment to inclusion. For example, you could sponsor a local Miracle League baseball team or collaborate with disability groups to host inclusive community events. Miracle League, if you haven't heard about it, is an organization which helps children with disabilities play ball. They have nice accessible rubber fields. They have businesses that sponsor the teams. The businesses buy the t-shirts, so your name and logo is on there. The business has their employees come out and help the children each week with the game. So it's a great way to help the community and get your name out there. Design your products and services with accessibility in mind. This includes everything from physical accessibility in your store or office to digital accessibility on your website and apps. Consider creating products that cater to the needs of people with disabilities, such as adaptive clothing lines or accessible fitness equipment. Make products and services accessible to as many people as possible. Continuously measure the impact of your inclusion efforts and seek feedback from employees, customers, and the community. Use this feedback to make ongoing improvements and demonstrate your commitment to inclusion. In closing, inclusion is not just a moral imperative. It is a business strategy that can drive innovation, engagement, and growth. By implementing inclusive practices, you can enhance customer satisfaction, improve employee engagement, and create lasting social impact. Remember, inclusion starts with small intentional actions that build a culture of respect and belonging. As business owners and entrepreneurs, we have the power to lead by example and create a more inclusive world. Thank you for your time today. I hope you leave here inspired and equipped with practical strategies to make your business a force for positive change. Let's work together to transform our businesses and communities through the power of inclusion. Let's approach this journey with empathy and take personal responsibility for the change we want to see in the world.
Thank you for participating in today's enlightening session of Catalyze. As we transition to our next expert, remember that each strategy and insight is a step toward becoming a transformative leader in your field. Visit connectedleadersacademy.com to stay engaged and informed. The journey of change is ongoing. Let's move forward together.